somebody's making a suggestion, you should post this somewhere too as an elegant option for personalization. I think that's a good idea, Christine.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's good. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time today and your information. I think this is a great solution.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. And with that, we are going to transition over to Umayr. I believe I thought I saw him on there. If you want to come off mute, Umayr. Ah, there he's.
Hello.
Hey there, man. Good to see you again.
Good to see you all.
All right. So if you want to take over presenting.
Yeah, of course. Just give me one moment.
Oh.
All right. I'll go ahead and take over. You could just let me know when you see the presentation.
I think we're good.
Hey, all
Perfect.
right.
And then Steve, if you want to go off camera, that would be perfect. All right. Oh,
All right.
Up to you, Umayr. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Donald. And thank you, Michelle. And thank you to the entire Minnesota Microsoft 365 User Group for inviting me here to speak. My name is Umayr Sufi. I am a cloud solution architect here at the Microsoft Corporation. I'm based in Microsoft Silicon Valley, so California, near our Silicon Valley headquarters in Mountain View, California. So if any of you ever come to visit, please look out for me. I actually go to the campus a lot and would love to show you around should you ever make your way here. If you're part of any of our partners or any companies that we work with, we'd love to see you. Today, my topic is all about modern work and adoption and change management during this new age that we call AI. AI is actually not new, so my title is a little bit misleading. AI has been in Microsoft products, especially in the modern work portfolio of products, since the very beginning, even you can trace it back to 2014. So there's a lot that goes on with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all those fancy terms that you hear today. But what's really the difference is the investment in AI today. It's being talked about so much more, and really the transformation from kind of like assistive technology that has generally been the hallmark of AI. It's now generative. It's now something that we can use to generate work for us and kind of do a lot of the aspects of our job that might be very automated or very monotonous. So that's what I mean by the age of AI. So we're going to take a look during this hour into the modern work portfolio and how adoption and change management change, do not change, stay the same, and how does it all work with AI? So I really appreciate the last speaker's presentation. It was a lot more collaborative and kind of you got inside of the code and looked at everything from a desktop point of view. This presentation will be a little bit more high level. So we won't be really going into demos, although we might, but just setting the stage for you. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll be trying to monitor. And Donald, you can feel free to interrupt me if anyone raises their hand or has a really burning question that we might be able to answer. All right. So we'll go into kind of 3 sections during this presentation. The first section will be what is Microsoft's vision for modern work in this new age. The second section will be more about what is the adoption and change management rhythm. And then the third section will be how does AI work into all of this? What's new? And what should you look out for as the kind of ACM person that you might be for your organization? All right. Let's move forward. Okay, so Microsoft's modern work portfolio has always been a more connected type of experience. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off so we can focus, because I realized I had a huge Microsoft 365 background on my camera. So yeah, right off the bat, there's a question that I want to address. Will we get the deck? You'll be able to see this presentation through the YouTube channel. So, don't feel the need to take copious amount of notes. I know you want to kind of pay attention and ask questions, and this will be available to you in the YouTube channel. All right, so again, the modern work portfolio here at Microsoft is a lot of connected experiences. You can think of some of them as Microsoft Teams, for example, which is our central hub for collaboration, for chatting, for all of that. And then you have the Office apps, and this includes all of the apps that you can use on the desktop and on the mobile side of things. And by mobile, we mean any device, not just your phone. So that's the Office 365 things. And then we have what we call an AI power through Stream and ideas here. So that's not the classic sense of like Microsoft 365 Stream, right? The video service that we all knew. It's more of what we call kind of the back end of Microsoft 365, or what is now today known as the graph. So it is this kind of ideas and stream of, you could say, consciousness throughout the modern work portfolio that ties everything together. And that is where AI comes into a lot of the influence and play. And I'll show you kind of how that works in just a bit. And then lastly, the other set of connected experiences that we have is IT. So Windows, which is the backbone of all of our process and products. That's the operating system, right? And then there's the endpoint management, which you can kind of bundle security into device management and all of the other things that you do in your Microsoft 365 environment. So that's what I mean by connected experiences. So hopefully that makes sense to all of you. You're pretty familiar with that. Let's go ahead and move on. Microsoft 365 is also an integrated workflow. So there are business apps that you can create within Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams, for example, has the capability of integrating with business apps that solves workflows in today's organizations. So you don't need to use the Microsoft out-of-the-box products. You can integrate your own products within our ecosystem. There's a lot of automation that takes place in our modern work portfolio with the use of forms and Power Automate and the Power Platform. And then you can build automated apps or just general apps with Power Apps. And then what you can do with individuals in your organization is manage their work and have them manage their own work with To-Do, Planner, and Project. So these products that I've been naming off and these kind of connected experiences all make up the portfolio of modern work that we know today. On the security side, we must also recognize that security is part of the modern work portfolio, what we call today now Microsoft Entra, used to be called Azure AD. I obviously didn't update this, but the Entra process, would add AD, conditional access, the threat protection and cloud app security, compliance manager, information protection. All of the security workflows are also part of the modern work portfolio here. All right, so that's all sorted into what we call Microsoft 365. That's what you know today as the modern work portfolio. The vision for modern work that Microsoft has in today's society is we want to help with solutions, empower employees, enable teamwork, and transform how your organization competes with friction-free collaboration and AI-powered services. So that's what kind of binds everything together in today's modern work portfolio. We want to provide that collaboration background and then also AI-powered services to help automate and generate things for you. This is also backed by our security, our guarantees within the regulations to comply with regulations, and a great customer experience. So the only thing that's really changed in the Microsoft 365 vision, the modern workplace vision, is the AI-powered services. That's kind of the new aspect that we have here. We've seen challenges with modern work, and they're actually pretty, similar, even with the advent of AI. So what prevents us from doing our best work, even with all the technology and data that we have? Our research shows that when information workers are using products to, help their get their work done, they use an average of about 36 different cloud services, which create many sources of distraction. In fact, 3 minutes is the average time that an information worker spends on a single task before being interrupted. And then when they're interrupted, it takes about 25 minutes for them to return to that task. So there's a lot of distraction here. We have a distracted workforce. With the use of 36 different cloud systems, as I mentioned, there is disconnection. Imagine your information workers using perhaps the Google Workspace or any product, any product that you see out there, Salesforce, Google, all of those. And maybe for chat, you use an app like WhatsApp or something that is very easy to use, but might not be connected to your overall system. This disconnection really drives shadow IT and a lot of different types of vendors that might be involved in your business. So you just have all these disconnected systems that you need kind of like an army of IT and vendors to manage. That's what we mean by disconnected systems. And then the final challenge to having a productivity workplace is security and compliance. And that's probably the most important that we see today. How are you enabling transformation with security and compliance when you have 36 different cloud systems, or when you have an unsanctioned chat app like WhatsApp that really doesn't allow you to have control over things and doesn't take into mind, different privacy requirements, different requirements based on where your business is located, regulations, etc. How are you able to consider security and compliance if you have all those disconnected systems and distracted workforces? So based on these three challenges, we've been really keen at Microsoft to create an experience that addresses these challenges. And then we've embedded AI on top of it, help connect everything together and to help eliminate the need for these monotonous automated workforce processes that you can just do automatically now. So that's where we put in Microsoft 365. The focus of this product is to take a human-centric approach to solving today's challenges to productivity. All right, so let's take a look. So again, Microsoft 365 brings together best-in-class productivity apps, all of the services and device management and security that you might need. And now, core to our productivity mission is AI. which enables people to enhance their own capabilities by automating low-value work, unlocking insights for data, and then it allows people to be secure and compliant in a proactive way. So AI touches every one of the three Microsoft 365 cloud aspects: productivity with our apps, security and intelligence, and also the compliance part. Lost my train of thought for a second. So we have these three aspects again that we're going to talk about today. Just to go over kind of what each entails, remember that intelligence and security contain identity and access, information protection, threat protection, and security management. So these are just descriptors of what this actually means, just in case you forgot. And then the road to actually implementing these products is what we're going to focus on today, which is adoption and change management. How do you gather your team, your stakeholders? How do you prioritize your business scenarios, technical planning, pilots, onboarding, and then measure and manage your adoption? So the point of today is to really take a look at what all of this entails, and then how do you continuously do it? Because adoption and change management are not one-time things, right? They are things that are continuous. And so you need to continually manage and measure success. So how do you do that now with these new tools that might help you? So Microsoft 365 also is adapting to today's environment of what we call do more with less. You might have a smaller IT team, budget might be tighter, the macro and microeconomic outlooks are not familiar for us in this day and age. So we have to adjust the way our business goes. One of those adjustments are eliminating redundant solutions. So remember I told you that on average, a company can use about 36 different cloud services. One thing that Microsoft 365 does is it eliminates those redundant solutions. You consolidate everything into one product, one family of products, and it cuts almost as much as 60%. So just imagine, and I'll show you kind of a little matrix graph of everything in just a minute, and you'll see how much it eliminates the redundant solutions. Number two, simplify IT management. So this is where security, device management, all of that goes into consideration. Microsoft 365 will help you automate most of these management processes. So you'll reduce cost on your IT, you'll automate it, and you're going to use AI to actually be proactive in combating security concerns, device management concerns, those things that today, if you don't use AI, you probably have to go through a dashboard, have to zero in and kind of see where the problems are. And it's way more reactive, right? With the power of Microsoft 365, you'll be able to be more proactive with our kind of security co-pilot, as I'll mention. So on average, you'll be able to cut the IT management cost by 40% and the time spent on device management. Notice how this isn't saying you're going to cut jobs or you're going to cut employment. This is actually assisting employees in what they already do. So it frees up employees to do more other tasks that are important in today's age. And then finally, what Microsoft 365 will empower you to do is protect your digital workers. People work where they want to work these days. Your company wants to be flexible, even if you're in office, even if you're work from home, or if you're hybrid, which is both. The ability to securely work from anywhere is a guarantee that Microsoft 365 wants to make. So enabling zero trust, device management that includes and that is thought for a hybrid work rather than just in office or just out of office. That's what Microsoft 365 will give you. It'll lessen your data breaches, protect your identities and your apps and data and devices. And then the real treat to protecting our digital workers is when you enable that zero trust security model, you reduce your data breach risk. That is probably the number one thing for companies today. You see in the news today all the time, data breach, data breach, data breach. Things are getting breached really easily. And when companies don't embrace kind of the zero trust model, it happens way more. So our model, we would like to kind of prove to you that it is a way better model to help protect your digital workers, no matter where they're working. All right. Now, this might be a familiar slide to a lot of you because you use, I'm assuming, Microsoft 365. But we have an organization called Fast Track. And I just wanted to highlight that should you need help, and your subscription includes about 150 plus licenses, you get access to Fast Track specialists that can help you enable all of these services within Microsoft 365. So if you need to help configure your identity and security compliance and explore it more, if you need to deploy Windows 11 or any of the 365 apps, you need to migrate your data, if you need to enable Microsoft Teams, or help with your employee experience scenarios with Viva, you can use Fast Track and access your benefits here. So you're able to click on the links in this PowerPoint. So if you want to click on these links, go ahead now. But the Fast Track services and guidance are Microsoft employees or approved vendors that work with us to help you enable your subscription. There's no additional cost if you're at 150 plus licenses, and it is eligible for the life of your subscription. So don't have to do it today or within 30 days of purchasing or something like that. It is an access that you have for the life of your subscription. All right, and I'll skip that slide. So let's now set the stage for the framework of modern work. And I'm going to quickly go through this because it's not really relevant to adoption and change management in terms of how you do things, but I just want to set the stage for you of like what we're looking at from a 300-foot level. What does the organization entail? So any modern workplace probably entails the following things. They have identity management, device management, and app management, productivity and collaboration, and then protection and governance, right? A business probably wants these four things to help them achieve everything they need to help their employees work. So under the identity management, you have all these different things like access, single sign-on, protection, etc. Under device management, you have your apps, your devices, self-service, modern desktop, etc. And this is what we include in what we call the back end. That's behind what the user sees. What the user actually sees is the front end, which is your productivity and collaboration platform, i.e. Microsoft 365. So individual productivity, storage creation, team collaboration, communication with the value chain, enterprise content management, business processes, KPIs, internal communication, and then under our information and protection and governance, a company would typically have something to help them share sensitive information, compliance like retention and governance, and other tools. So just think of your business and that's what you have from a 300-foot level. Let's take a look, and I mentioned in the beginning, those on average, a company has 36 vendors or cloud solutions. Here are all of them. This is theoretically what a company could get. So for identity management, device management, you could have things like Okta for single sign-on, Blue Coat for identity and access. You could have Google for your self solution, VMware for your modern desktop and app management, Citrix, etc. For the front end, you could have Google again for productivity, Slack for your team collaboration, Box for your storage. You could have the Adobe Enterprise Content Management, Facebook for communication. You could have SAP for business processes. Just there's so many different vendors you could have, right? This is what Microsoft 365 does when you enable it. It takes all of those disparate systems and puts them all into one secure, intelligent, complete solution. So we have a flavor of kind of every one of these parts in Microsoft 365. So you find a direct connection to all of these things in the matrix of your modern workplace inside of Microsoft 365. Now, when you talk about the productivity, or when you talk about each individual framework, there are obviously different products that help with those. So within the productivity and collaboration chain, you have Office or Microsoft 365. And then, Office has things that help with identity and information. And then device and app management also come in with Microsoft 365. What about other tools? So the other tools that you have are, for information and protection, you get Azure, right? For identity management, you get Microsoft Entra or Azure Active Directory, what used to be called Azure Active Directory. For device management, you get Microsoft Intune. A lot of you are using Windows 10, but Windows 11 will be, available, and we'll be moving forward with that. So you have all these different systems within 365 that's under the 365 umbrella. All right. So again, you take this matrix and let's move it a little forward, but you have all of these systems that I just mentioned. Now, in today's advent of AI, we have done something to help connect everything together. We are infusing AI within this whole process. So for identity and access, for example, we want to be able to identify protection and intelligently identify protection based on a user's behavior. We want to be able to control and have visibility over shadow IT. When it comes to single sign-on and deployment and protection and productivity and cloud and storage creation, we want to have something that helps us with advanced and threat protections based on zero-day attacks, something that proactively helps us. Within the productivity and collaboration space, we want to have something that analyzes our workplace productivity and gives us proactive results on how our company is using our modern workplace. We want to have intelligent communications and personal assistants to help us with team collaboration. When it comes to KPIs, we want to have real-time and dynamic dashboards to help us act on our KPIs and business results. When we go into compliance, we want personalized recommendations based on intelligent graphs, meaning we want to be able to be proactive in terms of our governance and monitoring. We want our systems to tell us if something's going to happen before it happens. We want to be proactive. And then when it comes to information and protection and governance, we want automated governance based on context. We want automated classification. We don't want to do these things anymore on a manual basis. We want something that can take all of our business data and automate it for us, give us recommendations, generate actions for us that we can take action on using intelligence. So does this sound familiar? Anyone want to guess in the chat what is going to help us do all of this stuff? I'll give you 30 seconds to put something in the chat. What is going to help us do all these things above here? Okay, I saw one answer, Copilot. That's good. Copilot AI. Awesome. You guys are on the right track. So what's going to help us? Oh, and those are just product names, by the way. Forgot to put that there. Here we are. Here's the answer. Artificial intelligence. So AI infused has been one of the missions that we have now enabled in 2022, 2023. You've seen it everywhere, right? Copilot. You've seen Copilot for almost every single product you can imagine in the modern workplace. And this is what we're trying to do. We want to infuse AI into all of these 4 processes that a modern workplace goes with. And what it will do is it will help simplify your security. It'll help ensure compliance with and enhance your security. And through the power of Microsoft 365, E5 especially, that flavor that you might have heard about, it'll help with your productivity and move that forward. And I'll skip that slide. So now what we want, now that we know, what's the background of all of that modern workplace stuff, and we can infuse AI with it, how do you actually make sure your organization transforms? So this is the ACM, or Adoption and Change Management flavor. So now that you understand the background of what needs to change, how do you change it? How do you get people to adopt to this new modern workplace? First of all, it requires employees to change the way they work. That statement is incredibly difficult, as many of you might know. It takes mountains of effort, sometimes years, to just change one process. So how do you do this with AI, with this new AI world? Let's get into it. So as of now, we see in our sourcing and by different organizations, and you'll see the source listed here below. But 61% of executives say they want to focus on reimagining work in this new age. 82% of employees believe that workplace tech influences their role of accepting a job, meaning they want to see organizations that are adopting with the new technologies. They don't want to see old ways of doing things. They want to see new ways of doing things. And then this one you'll probably see or be familiar with because it really hasn't changed. But 92% of mainstream companies report they continue to struggle with cultural challenges related to organizational alignment and business processes and change management and all the buzzwords that we understand. So a majority of companies are struggling to enable change. So here's how in the Microsoft 365 world and in our modern work portfolio, how it can help you with adoption and change management. So while all companies are unique and have their own identities, we're seeing common trends affecting the culture of work and employees' expectations on what a modern work environment should provide. The workplace is as diverse as ever, and knowledge workers are being asked to join more teams because of our new way of working. Teams that are in different geographies have way too many different roles, and their organizations are always changing and being agile. There are also way more many types of workers. You are now seeing an increase of workers that are what we call the gig workers or the gig economy and first line workers, meaning they don't tend to stay in an organization for years and years and years. They tend to go where they want to go based on how the economy is working or based on where their interests lie. And this is especially true with what we call the Gen Z generation. If you're familiar with that term, Gen Z is, that generation. I believe they are 1 year separated from me. So I'm like a very, very last stage of millennial in the 1990s. And then there's a point from my year, the next year comes the first of Gen Z. So I'm a little bit familiar with this generation being right in the middle of it or right in the very beginning of it. We're now entering the work world, and we have 5 generations before us that are also in the workplace. So the Gen Xers, the other generations. So today, the workforce is made up of a very, very diverse workforce. And we're talking about generations, not other diversity indicators. We've seen a shift away from routine tasks. So employees don't want to just do monotonous work again and again. They want to be creative. They want to think creatively. And the world's information doubles every 18 months, meaning the information that we have to gain from the world, from just how technology is going, is doubling every 18 months. So there's an abundance of information. The ability to quickly turn this information into insight is the difference between a business succeeding and a business failing. So how does your modern workplace is shaped will help you absorb that information or will not help you absorb that information. So it's the key to everything. How your business adopts information and ingests it, takes that information and translates it into business is the key to almost everything, from improving productivity to innovation, to understanding your customers, to expanding into new markets and much more. So people are asking for more flexible work. They want the option to work remotely, anywhere, anytime. To do this, they need the tools and the digital workspace to communicate, access their data, stay productive and protected. So this changes your organization's productivity approach, security approach, everything. And that's why I went into the whole background of what a modern workplace looks like in the slides that I mentioned. And I'll put it up here again. So just remember this slide. This is what your modern workplace looks like or can look like today. And we see directly in the data that employees want a modern workplace to be complex like that because it serves their needs. They want to be working from anywhere. They want updated technology, and they want the ability to digest a very large amount of information. All right, so this is the environment where modern work happens, and the reality of modern work presents a huge opportunity for organizations to adopt AI to address these challenges. Let's go on and see where AI is today. So even today, and this is in the recent years, only 4% of companies are AI mature today. So this source is from Gartner, and it is an older study, but it is pretty true even to today. Artificial intelligence is currently in the early adoption stage. So these are company respondents, not individual people. So about 14 percentage points of companies. So there's about no interest in AI right now. 35% said it's on the radar. 25% they're in medium or long-term planning. 21% are actively experimenting. And 4% have already invested and deployed. So we are getting there, but it is a slow start. It's getting there. However, you ought to look in your company and know that your C-suite is particularly interested in AI. So about 71% of executive management level folks are interested in the AI topic. They think it's important. Board of directors level, 38%. The managerial level, 56%. However, take a look at employees. On the employee level, about 28% think it is the topic du jour or an important topic. That's probably because of exposure. Not much exposure, right? So that'll take, it's more at the strategic stage right now, which maps directly to the early adoption data that we see here. And then just finally, another Forbes survey here. Out of companies with a standout leader, 48% says their CEO leads the push for AI. And 42% say it's their CIO or CTO. As you've probably seen from Microsoft, Satya Nadella is very adamant on AI. So he would be among those 48% that say, or that are leading the push. But almost every executive at every level at Microsoft is pushing AI. And so we know that from experience here. All right, and then let's just focus on employees a little bit. So employees prefer to have an AI assist them rather than manage or work alongside them. So this is where we're talking about the co-pilot thing, right? Employees prefer a co-pilot. They don't prefer something that takes over or something that is kind of like a robot, so to say. They prefer a co-pilot, something they can manage, that they can assist them. This is where we're headed, and that's kind of why we released that whole co-pilot moniker. All right. So one of the things that I referred to before was that cultural challenges, not technological ones, represent the biggest impediment around transformation. So there are, the ways that we're working, the integration of 5 different generations among our workforce, that is the overall challenge. The technology can be adopted in a more easy way, but it is how we adopt that technology that is the biggest impediment in our modern work transformation today. Organizations don't change unless the people inside them change. So how do you address this? Imagine you're introducing change. There are always proactive early adopters, right? That always adopt when something is introduced. But when most people are asked to alter their behavior because of a technology change, a majority of them will need help to transition to a new way of working. That means you must proactively manage the change so that you ensure the desired outcomes of the project. And when I say you, I mean your change management team or the IT team or whoever in your organization leads that change management. So think of AI, think of Copilot. Let's say your organization is adopting Copilot. You're always going to have the early adopters and the innovators. The early majority is a majority of your company. And then the late majority is the other majority that, is really hesitant. So it's this kind of curved area here, which is going to be the most difficult for you as a change management adopter. And then you have the laggards who generally take very long time to adopt. So you must proactively manage employee adoption. And you need to reach about 75 to 85% to be successful. Here are the 75 to 85%, right? That's the majority, the early majority and the late majority. And then perhaps the laggards or the early adopters. You can interchange these this section with this section when you're kind of making your priority matrix. The change just doesn't happen if you, send out an email that says, hey, we're adopting this product. Here's how to adopt it. 1, 2, 3. That's the minimum. It's not going to happen if you just do that. If that's the only thing that you do, that's not going to do anything. Enabling the technology does not mean that employees will consume it. We know that, right? To achieve your desired outcomes, you need a structured approach to drive adoption. And you need to introduce new ways of thinking. Again, remember, 92% of impediments come from a culture challenge rather than a technology challenge. So it's not the technology that is impeding your change. It's the culture. You need to change your culture. A structured approach means more than just communication and training. So like I mentioned, sending out an email that has links to different training, that won't work. That's just not how change can be successfully introduced into a company, especially around a product like AI. So let's take a look at that culture, that structured approach. So without properly addressing the people side of change, meaning the culture, you will have a direct impact on your outcomes, your budget, and your schedule. Projects with excellent change management meet or exceed objectives in 83% of the times and are on or below budget in 81% of the times and ahead of schedule in 71%. So we'll see that in this graph here. The respondents that we took were, we asked them, how did your project go? Poor, fair, good, or excellent? How was the change management? And so people who were below budget, 81% of them said it went excellent when they were below budget. If they were ahead of schedule, it was excellent. And then the number of respondents in our survey that met or exceeded their objectives were about 93%. So the effective application of a structured adoption and change management will considerably increase your success rate by 6 times. So they're 6 times more likely to exceed objectives than projects with a weak change management. So what makes a strong or weak change management? This is the questions that we ask when we ask how is something addressed in terms of weakness or strong? What's a strong change management approach versus a weak one? Some of the questions that you should ask to answer that would be the following. How will you get the right level of sponsorship? Sponsorship is the important part of the change management. You need a sponsor. How will you empower your leaders to support change? So how do you empower your leaders? How will you leverage an employee network to support peers through change? You need an employee network. So like a power group or a champions group. How will you reward and recognize the desired behavioral changes? There needs to be a reward and recognition system. And then finally, how will you measure success? You need to actually use something to measure your success. You can't just hope it's going to happen. You need data. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions you can ask yourself, and that'll help you answer if you have a weak or strong change management process. Okay, so to address these challenges or those questions, you need a structured approach to manage this new way of working. Here is our structure to change management for modern work. And this structure that I have listed here works really well within Microsoft 365 environments. So we've kind of tailored this to the product itself. There are 8 elements to help you drive adoption. Sponsor engagement. So what does that mean? It says you need to engage a product council or a executive or a leader or a CEO or someone who can be in a sponsorship coalition or position to support and maybe even enforce sometimes the adoption of new ways of working. So that's number one. Number two, success measurement. So you need to be able to measure success throughout the business. So you need stuff like an outcome scorecard, adoption metrics, and you need things that can help deliver or show a positive impact and deliver a desired outcome. So just think about success measurement for a second. And if you want to answer in the chat, you can answer this, but what within Microsoft 365 can help you measure success? There's a certain tool or set of tools that can help you do that within our product today. Has anyone ever used them, or do you know the name of it? Anyone want to entertain that in the chat? Give you a hint, it's a dashboard. Okay, forms planner. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Okay, but the one answer I was looking for, and it might be a Power BI Insights tool. Yep, there it is. And then Michelle also said a score. So there's an actual page called Adoption Score. It's a very, very powerful tool within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center that can help you focus on how people are adopting the products within our suite. So it's one of the tools you can use for success measurement, in addition to everything else people have said in the chat. So thank you for participating. Okay, the third aspect of a successful adoption and change management program would be manager empowerment. You need to engage and empower your managers to support their teams through change. So you need to give them the leeway, the authority, the knowledge, and really the power to change resistance management. So where they can proactively identify, understand, and counteract resistance to change. Because a lot of people are going to resist change. As you saw in that slide, there is a huge late majority and laggard that resist these types of changes. So you need to empower managers to be able to help with that. All right. Like I mentioned, you need to have a change enablement network. This could be in the form of a champions group. This could be a community, peer-to-peer community, but you want to recruit, prepare, and engage an employee community to help your peers through change. Communications is a very important part as well. So employee-targeted communications are important. Driving awareness and reinforcing the change is what communications does. And so you need your comms team aboard. Learning and skilling is part of this as well. You need to have product teams or teams that are developing the necessary knowledge or surfacing that information through the product. For example, within Microsoft 365, we have a great tool called Viva Learning in the Microsoft Viva product families. That allows you to surface training that's already been created and vetted through either your third-party content learning system or through LinkedIn Learning or through our Microsoft 365 learning services. You can push a lot of great courses that can help people identify and understand things like Copilot or any of the Microsoft 365 products that you're working on adopting. And finally, one of the proven structured approaches to enhancing employee experience is rewards and recognition. And honestly, this one gets a lot of, people say it a lot, but it never gets that much attention, right? Because it's kind of like, oh, rewards and recognition. That's easy. That's something we don't need to invest a lot in. And actually, that's not true. There needs to be a lot of investment in this final pillar. And you need to recognize and reward employees for successfully changing their behavior. Because it's hard. It's super hard. Remember, 92% cultural challenges represent the biggest impediment around transformation initiatives. When we say culture, we mean people. People are the hardest and the biggest impediment around a business's transformation initiatives. So when they do transform, you want to reward them. I hope that resonates with everyone here. So again, this is a 8-step proven structured approach to adoption and change management for modern work. And it especially works in today's advent of AI. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, again, it's going to be in the YouTube, but this is a proven method to help, and it should be working well in today's AI society as well. Any questions so far?
Yeah, there was a question in there I want to point out. So Jason Hughes was asking about, in general, and how many, and maybe this is something even to our audience that are still around, how many companies actually have a change management department? Or, maybe it's, and I know I've done this in the past with some of my other customers or the companies I work with, maybe it's a user experience group internally. But I mean, how many do you have a formalized group to help with this, right? And I think that's something that you have to take a look at it. It cannot be just IT, right? Has to be a part of IT, but it's not necessarily always going to be IT that's going to do this, because a lot of times they don't have that skill, right? And that's something that I've seen with the companies where we have to build that skill. But Umayr, if you had anything else to say about that.
Oh yes, I have a lot to say, but I'll distill it down. Yeah.
Go ahead.
A lot of the companies that I work with, and now being at Microsoft, of course, I have a little bit of a bias in the companies I work with, because they are all mostly enterprise, right? They do have a designated change management person or adoption kind of user group or working group, but a lot of the times it is not formalized. It is just something aside where they pull people from different departments. I really like the comment that Jason puts in here, that change management might someday become as important as finance or HR. Honestly, it should be, and it should be that today. And I understand it could be difficult for a lot of small level organizations or even enterprise organizations to put budget for that or to make that a priority. But as you saw with the data, again, I just keep bringing back that 92% figure. How are you going to face that 92% blockage if you don't have a dedicated team to help you with this? And then one thing that can really help is, again, our fast track team. So let me bring that back. Fast track will help you implement and think about a lot of these things. So definitely take advantage of fast track. Should you have a smaller team, or should you need something to help? And I see there's a comment from Michael who says ACM falls within our MN365 team scope, but requires key partnerships with HR, comms, training, and dev. We have a dedicated team of IT communicators that help, but things like reward and recognition can require HR support. Yeah, definitely. So it is a very team-centric, organization-centric method. Your change management and adoption practitioners may be just the people that walk through it, right, and enable it. But you still need the partnership of all of the different organizations to make it happen. So that remains true. So great section, great question. All right. And yeah, like Donald mentioned, if you want to put it in the chat, if your company has this team already, that's great. Go ahead and let us know. Okay. So just commenting a little bit more on that, on the 8 structures that I introduced. The approach we're taking is a diverse and inclusive approach. People are different, and therefore, if you need to promote a new technology or to promote a new way of employee experience, You need to contextualize how that will influence change to different work styles and functions that people have. So again, when we mention diverse and inclusive, we're talking about the culture change, the way people work, how they work, the different work styles. This does not necessarily mean who they are. It's mostly how they are. So when you're adopting this new technology, whether it be AI, whether it be 365, whatever, you need a diverse and inclusive approach. Today's world is no longer the world of yesteryear. People work differently. They work where they want, they work how they want, and they want to work with their devices that they want. So you, as an organization, need to contextualize the change with all those different work styles and functions. Very self-explanatory, straightforward. All right, so how do you analyze that context? So how do you actually measure and make sure things are happening with a diverse workforce? So that context is brought into life with different employee groups through scenarios that describe the ways activities can be executed in the future using technology. So here's a method we came up with that select different scenarios and how we want to prioritize them. So let's take a look at this chart that I put in front of you all. So here are the impacted employee groups that are going to be impacted when you bring something new to the workforce. Each persona group has a distinct set of characteristics that requires a specific method to bring the workforce to life. So you have your knowledge workers, your office workers, you have a road worker, team leaders, the generalists. Just imagine these are personas within your company. You have the desired outcomes you want, you have the impacted employees, so they're the personas, and then you have change management capabilities that you can introduce. So employee groups represented are grouped by their work style. So here are the work styles. So these new ways of working describe the way an activity can be executed in the future by the targeted personas using technology. So these personas can either use remote working, they use team collaboration, committees, content co-creation, connecting communities like champions groups, employee engagement, smarter meetings, search and discovery, sharing knowledge, and organizing work. So you take your personas, you take the new ways they're working, and you create what we call a prioritization matrix. So your change management team will create this prioritization matrix that'll identify patterns of needs and usages across personas and scenarios and prioritize for adoption. So as you can see, we've taken the personas and we put them at the top of the matrix. We put all the different ways of working in our culture on the left side. And here's our matrix. So we know, based on this example, all of our personas engage in remote working. We see that our office workers here and our team leaders do effective committees. We see all of them work in connecting communities. We see that smarter meetings are part of, this persona, this persona, this persona, this persona. And sharing knowledge is this persona and this persona. The blue dots help us identify which are the two scenarios we want to target first for adoption. We want to engage the remote working groups and the connecting communities group for adoption first. This is what the prioritization matrix will help you do. We recommend this to prioritize our criteria and make sure you're hitting the most important people first. You want to hit, again, remember, you want to achieve, an 81%, I'm sorry, that's the wrong slide. You want to reach 75 to 85% of your employees. To do that, you need to prioritize them so that you can understand where more employees lie. Where are your groups and personas engaging in the type of ways of working? Once you understand that, you can prioritize how to change remote working or connecting communities. Awesome. So before I go into this slide, I just want to catch up on the comments. So we have some good comments from Donna. There's a chasm between the IT department and the end user. It's great to have a change management personnel that can speak both languages. Very good. Correct. Yes, you need people that understand both organizations and everything in between. All right, great. Okay, so what is this slide, this busy slide saying? This slide is representing different scenarios that people work in. Scenarios are representations of how activities can be performed with the help of technology. So we can materialize new ways of working through scenarios for employees. So here's the way to approach this. When you build a scenario for a new way of working, like smarter meetings or remote working, like we had on the previous page, you can identify the skills that are required for the employees and the desired behavior changes. Meaning, let's take smarter meetings, for example. You, as a change management adoption team, create a scenario called smarter meetings. It represents, meetings remote using, let's say, Microsoft Teams as example. You have adopted some sort of app, like maybe Miro, like a whiteboarding app, or maybe Microsoft Whiteboard, that allows you to do whiteboarding and make sure that people who are remote can relate to people who are in office, no matter where they are. And you collected all of that information and you put it into this scenario called Smarter Meetings. Now that you have a scenario, you can take the skills that are required and map them to be used in the learning and skilling plan. So now as a change management team, you have a scenario that you can give to the learning and skilling team and say, hey, I need you to create a learning path for smarter meetings, or I need you to surface content that people can take as a course. And then you can do this for every other business, for HR, for communications, for marketing. You have a list of scenarios that you've identified, and now you can create representations for them. You can create metrics, you can measure the scenarios. It allows you as a change management team to measure success. So remember how we said, how will you measure success? One of the ways to do this is through scenarios. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I know it's a busy slide, but what I'm trying to say is creating a scenario based on a new way of working. So you can think about an AI scenario will help you identify all these different things that'll help you measure success, create a skilling plan, do all of the necessary things that's required for adoption and change management. All right, now I realize the time is going away from us, so I need to move a little bit quicker. All right, so again, once you have your scenarios, you can create the matrix that we mentioned, and then you can, after creating that matrix, you can create what we call adoption and change management tactics. And those are those 8 pillars that we went over earlier: sponsors, learning, rewards, communications, etc. All right, so finally, we know that employee learning is a crucial place for M365 implementation. Microsoft can provide what we call full end-to-end training for our customers, which can help you on your skilling journey. So, for example, if you need self-service training, role-based training, or custom training, Microsoft can help you with that. So you can use Microsoft as sort of your vendor for change management. And this can be accessed through our website, through the self-service. For example, Microsoft Learn. Role-based training can be through our Learn website as well, for IT, for HR, for security, etc. And then custom training. We can provide you with customized training through our partners and other services that can help you implement all these things. So the question that was asked in the chat was, can Microsoft help us create AI scenarios that are met through their new features? Yes, and you can do that through your account team or by working with Microsoft, like Fast Track, for example. All right, so that was the end of the ACM part. So how ACM can support your modern work initiatives, and here's kind of just an overview slide of everything we talked about. Assess, remediate, enable, migrate, and adopt. Those are kind of the overarching words that you would use. And we didn't use a lot of these words in our presentation today because we actually went through the context of them. We went through the matrix, we went through scenarios, we went through the 8 adoption pillars. We went through the migration, which is how do you get from early adopters to your late bloomers, right? And then we went through the group and employee personas. So I have about 2 to 5 minutes left, I believe. And I just want to go over the different AI tools that you're going to see throughout the new modern work portfolio. So how are we going to look at an AI-powered organization in modern work? Like I mentioned in the beginning, generative AI technology is now here. We've had AI for a lot of different other things like spelling correction, like Microsoft Designer and PowerPoint that allows you to create beautiful PowerPoint slides by just typing in a bunch of words. Now, generative AI is here, and we've all been familiar with ChatGPT. It took ChatGPT 3 months to reach 100 million users. So we know it's going to be a great force within AI. And so Microsoft is jumping on that AI train with our Microsoft 365 service at the forefront. If you go to our work trend index, we are detailing how people are going to work with AI. And I would encourage everyone to kind of read it because it's an eye-opener at aka.ms/WTI. Digital debt is what we call all of the stuff that is inefficient to us today. Meetings, searching, security stuff, things that require a volume of data, emails, and chats have outpaced our ability to process it all. We call it digital debt. We can't, as individual people, keep going through that digital debt and trying to maintain it. So we are using AI to help. AI is a new alliance that we are conducting, and we call it Copilot. So we found that 49% of people said they're worried about AI replacing their jobs. 70% would delegate as much work as possible to AI to lessen their workload. Do you see that kind of disparity there? People don't want AI to replace, they want AI to assist. They want AI to be there to lessen their workload. And that is exactly what our AI principles are. We want AI to be reliable, fair, private, inclusive, transparent, and accountable. So when you use Microsoft Cloud with AI, your data is your data. Your data is not used to train any of the OpenAI or ChatGPT foundation. Your data is protected. So when we talk about AI, this is what we mean. We want AI that helps us with productivity. We want AI that helps us with automation. And we want AI that helps us become a high-performing organization. So here's how it would be structured. On any client, on any Windows device. We want our 365 apps, our security, our identity, and our device management to have integrated AI solutions. And so all of these solutions must be AI ready and will be AI ready with our Copilot. And here we introduced Microsoft 365 Copilot to the world. So we combine large language models, the Microsoft Graph, which is everything your data has in 365, and the apps that are in 365, plus the internet. Copilot is the tool that is being used to help with security, compliance, and privacy as well. So it's AI ready, it's enterprise ready. And all an organization has to do to kind of adopt and use this technology is get it integrated into their 365 stack. So what we have is the 365 Copilot, and it touches all of these areas within your Microsoft 365 environment. It also touches things like Power Platform, where you can do app development, automation, conversational AI, and analytics. So that's where that comes in as well. So what are the next steps in helping you take a look at becoming an AI company? You can visit the Work Trend Index. You can participate in a workshop. And then our #1 page is the Copilot adoption page. So you can get ready to experience Copilot when it comes later this year or next year within Microsoft 365. That was a whirlwind of a presentation, and I hope you gained something out of it in terms of understanding how the basis of adoption and change management can work. And then on top of that, how new AI tools such as Microsoft 365 Copilot can help you with your organization. I really appreciate you all attending this environment and this presentation. If you have questions, let's go ahead and ask them in the chat if we have time left. There's some resources for you to find out more about our Work Trend Index and AI tools. You can go to microsoft.com/worklab. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Umayr. Amazing job, exactly what I was hoping. It looks like Michael has his hand up. Hey, Michael, what's your question for Umayr?
My question is about Bing Chat Enterprise versus Copilot. So for most of us, Copilot won't be available till later this year or early next year, and it'll only be available for in my tenant about half of our users because of the licensing that we have. That only half of them have the M365 E3, the other half are O365 E1. But Bing Chat Enterprise is basically available now and would be usable by everyone. So if we want to jump on the AI bandwagon as soon as possible, we could go and encourage everyone and do ACM adoption change management for Bing Chat Enterprise. But then say 6 months later, Copilot comes along. And once you have Copilot, is Bing Chat Enterprise even sort of really attractive anymore, or do you see people just sort of shifting over from Bing Chat Enterprise to Copilot because Copilot does everything Bing Chat Enterprise does plus more?
Sure.
And so I guess the question is given where we are today with Copilot coming soon and Bing Chat Enterprise here now, doesn't make sense to do anything with Bing Chat Enterprise for those who could get Copilot, or just sort of wait until Copilot is available and then just go all in on Copilot?
Right. Good question. So the short answer is Bing Chat Enterprise is actually different, and it is used for different functions. So Bing Chat Enterprise is kind of like for web searching and light creation. as Max is saying in the chat. So it's an AI-powered chat for work, where data isn't saved, Microsoft has no eyes-on access, and there's no training, to the models that we use. But what it really is used for is kind of searching and getting answers, creative, generative answers to different queries that you might have. So it is not the same thing as 365 Copilot, which are actual tools within environments like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Teams meetings, Power BI, Power Apps.
But is there anything that Copilot can? Is there anything that Bing Chat Enterprise can do that Copilot won't be able to do? It seems like Copilot is a superset.
Yeah, Copilot is meant for the products themselves, meaning Bing is like on the internet. So you have, you open bing.com today, and you can access the personal type of Bing Chat. And that allows you to do different things like search for travel plans or create itineraries for your travel, or talk about a topic and kind of understand it a little bit more. Your Bing Chat Enterprise is same, but for work. Whereas Copilot is more generative content creation for you. So like within PowerPoint, you would say you have a presentation and you need to convert it into, you need to get data out of it, or create an Excel file. The creation part of Copilot is not available in Bing Chat Enterprise. So it's differentiated in that way. But I see what you're saying. Like, could you type in Word Copilot, give me the definition of coffee beans? Yeah, you could do that, and you could do it in Bing Chat Enterprise as well. So on that base level, they're very similar, but they're really
I think
for
from
two
an
different
adoption
things.
and change management perspective, that question of what to use when needs to be
Yeah.
clarified, because even if you go back to that chart that compared the two, Copilot was a complete superset of the others, and so once you have Copilot, people would see that and think, okay, I'll just use Copilot for everything.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely a good point. And I think something we should clarify more as a company.
Thank you.
Hey, Michael, I just wanted to put this out there. Even with this chart, it's not a secret that we're testing M365 Copilot internally. I use Bing Chat quite often, and I also use M365 Copilot quite often. Bing Chat is, the equivalent of ChatGPT with the power of Bing for the actual web searching. So it's going to provide you just kind of immediate information, but the creation power, as Umayr has been talking about, and the integration power of M365 Copilot is what differentiates that. So yeah, I agree with you. Hey, it's going to be confusing what to use when, but it's going to even be harder for Microsoft than it has been in the past to tell you prescriptively what to use when. In the past, you'd ask, when should I use Yammer or Teams? And we'd have to draw you a Venn diagram, and it'd be slightly different for every company.
Inner loop, outer loop.
This is going to be much, much, much more different for every single organization.
Okay. Well, our end users are going to need guidance, so we've got to come up with something.
What I'm getting at is Microsoft will put out some generic stuff, but it's definitely going to be on, as Umayr's been talking about, change adoption and management for every individual company to define, hey, here's where we use this.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is where that prioritization matrix might come helpful. Like when you identify your groups and personas, you could create a matrix for Bing Chat versus Microsoft 365 Copilot and see, which scenarios used with which group and which persona. That could be a helpful thing to do. Thank you, Mike.